Most
Pretty much.
close.
Yeah, most of them are
Close.
close.
I get the job, I'm definitely gonna go. If I get voted the judge, I'm definitely gonna
The
go.
party in power.
Are we,
Yep,
streaming?
we are
All right.
live.
I'd like to call this meeting to order. We'll begin with the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone.
So what happens, you're gonna have to do another one.
We'll begin with the consent agenda. Recommended action: approve the following items which are included in the consent agenda. Increase the magnification. Approve the following items which are included in the consent agenda: 4A minutes, 6A consultant agreement approval, 6B senior citizen tax exemption resolution, 6C club approval, 6D acceptance of investment program audit report from the Office of the State Comptroller dated October 2023, 6C acceptance of transportation state aid audit report from the Office of the State Comptroller dated October 2023, 6H athletic merger, and 6I special education. Do I have a motion?
I move it.
Thank you, Ron. Do I have a second? Second. Well, hold on, we gotta,
Get the second first.
yeah, get the second first. Ryan, you'll be the second there? Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to put a hold on 6D and 6E,
Do you want to put a hold on that item, or do you want to pull them out of consent?
pull them out of consent.
All right, so we'll pull
For
those.
now,
So we're pulling 6E,
6D and 6E.
6D.
Yes.
D is in David.
That's
So
why
I'll remove the
it's
two comptroller things.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
I accept that amendment to my motion.
Okay. And then, once we're all set, we'll vote. Yeah, we don't have to score for it,
Oh,
right? It's all right, you don't have to. Just makes us feel things.
I know.
Control.
I'm waiting for Ron and Ryan to vote.
I didn't come up. I'll say
So-
aye.
Okay.
Double check yourself.
Okay, so it's 5 yes.
Refresh. Oh, they just locked me.
Breathe on.
Aye, so yeah, yes.
What was the results there?
5 yes.
5 yes, thank you. Brings us to for the good of the cause. Do you have any public comment?
No.
Is there anyone present who would like to, that is signed in and would like to speak? No? All right. Information of the public, we haven't had much for that lately. So move on to our reports to the board, starting with the chess club. Take it away.
Do I go to that side or this?
You can do either one that you would like.
We
You
have
can
one
stay
board
right
member
there.
who's attending virtually, so if we can get you there. Evan.
Oh, boy, we really-
I think it might
Apparently,
be
if
live.
you just hit the Zoom, you'll be okay.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Whoa,
All right.
Yeah, you got
that.
that.
A millennial in here, new IT director.
You've made that mistake.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
All right, Emmett, the
Go ahead.
floor is
You're on.
yours.
Yes.
Oh,
You want to
here,
pull up the presentation?
yes. You'll be over here behind. Okay. Ready?
Yes. I'm Emmett Ledwith, and I'm in the Father Enough Chess Club. And And as you can see, that's a picture of me and Blake Primo, who are a good friend of mine, playing chess. Those are two of my other friends. Since when, and this was before the room switch, because Mr. Joyce found a better room, and so Mr. Boswell both can have like tent in his room on Wednesdays. And that's my three friends, Amy and Trinity. Amy's on the left, Trinity's on the right.
You're doing great.
Awesome.
As you can see, there's me in the blue under Mr. Joyce, and Trinity's to the left of Mr. Joyce, and Nolan is on the left of the board, and Eric is on the left of, of Nolan, and superintendent,
Who won?
me.
Quick
Honest,
answer.
to be 100% honest, he would have won if it wasn't a timed game. We each had 5 minutes. I still had 4 minutes and 44 seconds. He used up all of his time.
All right.
Russian.
And my sister was there too. It's the first time she went to chess club in the mask. She stopped wearing a mask though. That's me and Blake getting interviewed. I don't remember the guy's name. Kayla. Yeah. And this is of this semester, I believe.
Mhm.
And as you can see, there's me here in the plaid coat. My cousin in the blue and orange in the back. And yeah, just a chess club like a couple of weeks ago. That's a picture of 10 of the chess club members going to the elementary school to teach 4th and 5th graders how to play chess. We did that yesterday.
How did it go?
It felt kind of short of, well, it was because we had to take the bus there. Took a couple minutes, so yeah. And this is of everyone that was there. There's Mr. Joyce, Julius, Blake, me, Amy, and there's a giant queen in the back. That's the chess club's mascot. Every chess club will be grabbing from Mr. Joyce, well, Mrs. Ty's and Mr. Joyce's room to put outside of the door so people know it's the chess club.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's it. And then how long have you been running chess club?
Since the second quarter of last semester, I believe.
Last year.
Last year.
And how did you go about getting it started?
He came up to Mr. Joyce one day and said, "Hey, do you want to make a chess club?" And he said, "Yeah." And we made the pictures. Well, first we got this is. Sorry,
You're good, you're good.
I got her permission, and we made the flyers for it and put it around the school. And that's how it started.
Great. Good.
All right, and
Good
congratulations,
job.
you're now an official
Thank you.
club.
He's the president.
Oh, all right.
Of the
Hail
club.
president.
El
Buck stops
president.
Heavy is the head that wears the crown.
I'm kind of the king of chess club.
Just fun.
Great job, Emmett. Emmett, great job. And it's really a really smart thing on your part that you're going down trying to teach chess to the 4th and 5th graders, because eventually those are going to be students that come up and they'll be part of your chess club when they come to middle school. So great job.
Yeah, that's kind of was the idea, so to inspire kids to play chess.
Well, that's awesome. And you did a really great job of presenting.
Thank you.
You're
Is there any
welcome.
room to see more to get better, you think? Maybe with a little practice?
Go a lot of ways.
Just make sure he doesn't play in a time game and he would win.
Okay.
Only reason why he lost. He was just crushing me. I was trying to make a fast move so he didn't run out of time. He went out of time like oh wow.
He does that with his reports too, so. Excellent, thank you.
Thank you
Good
very
job,
much.
Jim.
I appreciate it. And Mr. Joyce is just, I just want to say that is emblematic of Mr. Joyce's presence in our district. A student like Emmett is interested and excited about something. James, Mr. Joyce amplifies it, and he is a true delight. So thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you very
Seymour.
much.
Can I just add that we've received nothing but complete support and encouragement from the administration and from fellow faculty, and we're very grateful for that. So thank you.
All right, excellent. Thank you, guys. You don't have to stay. You're welcome to stay for
Thank
the
you.
whole meeting. You don't have to.
Put the budget stuff after so you have an excuse to go if you want.
It's up to my dad, he's my wife.
Oh, no pressure. We'll give Dad an out. How does that sound? We'll give Dad an out. How does that sound? Okay, you can watch it on TV. Okay, all right.
Thank you, Mr. Cash.
I'll watch
Mr. Seymour, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you,
Yeah,
guys.
that
Really good.
was fun.
All right, that brings us to budget performance report. Dana, you gotta follow that up, so.
I know, I'll keep it short. So you get these 4-page documents, what I use in terms of the forecast 5, they've actually come up with these are board docs. So these are just monthly reports that are meant for boards. It's basically what I usually give in terms of monthly revenue look, and then a yearly look as well. So what you'll see is first 2 pages are the month end for the month of October. Don't be shocked, the local revenue, it says negative 321. We didn't give money back to the taxpayers and $300,000. It's really just an accounting change in the system. It's just moving money to a different location. Generally what we do when it comes to our tax levy, we count it all as a receivable, even though we don't technically get it all at once. And then this is just an adjustment at the end. Tax season is done, that just closed up. So now what we do is we send the county all of our delinquent property owners in terms of payment, and then it's up to the county collects it. So with that is so when you look at the 321, it's really just a shifting accounting wise in terms of where the revenue is. By April, we are made whole by the county. So our tax levy is made whole every year, minus which we get from the state, which is our STAR reimbursement, and that is in a different line. But all in all, if you look at it in terms of our revenue for month end and for current year end, we're only about $18,000 different from last year in terms of where we, in terms of collecting our revenue. That is pretty standard for us at this point because of tax season. We generate most of our revenue in these first few months of the year. Expenses. If you look at it, the second and fourth page deal with the month-end expenses and the year-to-date expenses. Nothing unusual here. $845,000 in salaries and benefits. $165,000 equipment-wise are the big draws. If you look down at the bottom, it kind of breaks it up into big categories as to where we are. And then the last page is where we are in terms of year to date, a little over $5 million. When I look today, and that's how, when I do that, we're about only $18,000 difference for revenue. And as of today, our expenses were down about $500,000 from where we were last year in terms of expenses. And again, it's this time of year, it's really too early to really read into much of any of it. And we're only a couple months into it. We're really just a full month, not quite 2 months into full payroll and all that for the staff. So, but this is, a typical end of October month, what we're seeing for revenue and expenses. Questions? Treasury report. Is that right?
Yes.
So I'm going to highlight a couple of things here. It actually lends itself to the audits in terms of investments. Typical end of the month for October for our treasury report, where we brought in a little under $4 million, out about $1.5 million. This time of year, that is typical, where we're bringing in more than we spend. That will balance out by the end of the year because of where our revenue comes from. It's the second column I really want to highlight. This is the changes we have made in terms of where we put our money. Insured cost sweep of $3.8 million in years past. That's where we would see probably our $13, $14 million is in the ICS. Most of our excess cash is now sitting in the NICLAS. So in the second column, you'll see NICLAS unrestricted of $13 million and NICLAS reserves of $2.5 million. So that is where we're keeping most of our unencumbered money at this point. The reserves are our reserve accounts, the EBLAR, tax sorcery, our retirement reserve, our capital reserve, $1 million. That's where that is right there. That should not change unless we start pulling from it to pay for retirement and stuff like that, which isn't unusual.
And that was the one that the auditor identified as like a higher return.
Yes, yep. The $13 million, that's what we brought in, and I think I've talked about this from the start that, as our tax receipts come in, we were going to put most of that cash in the NICLAS system and spend down the insured cash sweep. And that's why that is. So we're sitting at a little over $15 million in the NICLAS. And the NICLAS, when I looked at the other day, that yield is about a little over 5%. But here is the irony of this. We'll go back to the audits. So when I was looking today, the ICS is trending at 4.75% for a rate of return. The NICLAS is slightly over 5%. So there isn't at this moment in time a huge difference between the two, but during the audit period there was I guess a bigger difference. Yeah, the ICS was probably trending at 1 or 2%, and NICLAS was probably trending at 3.5%. So there's probably a greater difference when the auditors looked at it. But as I looked at it today, we have generated to date $174,000 just in interest since July 1. Half of that is a little more than half of that was from the ICS, the NICLAS, just because it hasn't been in the NICLAS portion as well. But we're getting a great rate of return in both places at this point. But NICLAS is clearly the higher one. So all said and done, that's kind of where we are, in terms of our treasury report. And so, money's in, and we're able to pay our bills and have money left over. Questions on the treasury report?
What is that compensating fees account?
It's sort of like a standing thing for MBT. It's sort of like it's just a dollar amount that's in there that we keep, and it's just a revolving. Yeah,
just stays there.
It just stays there. Yep. I don't think it gets touched, but for whatever reason, we need to have this compensation fee for MBT there, and it's usually remains at $10,000.
Compensating fees.
Betsy and I have not really gotten a clear thing in terms of what it is. It might be just sort of like I'll call it a buffer for MBT in terms of any unknown expenses that come up fees
Fees that
wise.
MBT may charge.
May
is
charge.
There for that purpose.
Correct, yes. Other questions?
Excellent, thank you. Dan.
Operations, huh? That's me too. Happens when you have one meeting. I will give you, so I wanted to spend this time, a few minutes. Met last week, Dave Mayberry and I, we met with Mosaic, our architectural firm, and the structural engineer that they're using for our auditorium. Kind of a slow process. Yeah, the last meeting, you guys got the walkthrough of the weight room, the fitness center. That was part of that repair reserve fund. That is basically complete, minus a couple of TVs that are going to go in there. So that was the smaller amount of the reserve, and then the auditorium, and that's taken longer because it's got to go through the state. So we hired Mosaic to walk us through that process. A part of it is we had a structural engineer come in and look at the feasibility of one aspect of the project was motorized trusses for the lights that sit out in the house. Currently, they are attached to the walls, kind of where the balcony is. Right at the edge of the balcony, there's on both sides, there are fixed lights that shine onto the stage, and then we have the rigging on the stage. So they came in and did an analysis of the ceiling, because that's where the truss would go. And what they determined is the only way to put a motorized truss in the ceiling is if we rip out the $500,000 investment we had, did the capital project, pull the ceiling down, and then reinforce it, because the structural load of the ceiling would not hold it. So I guess there's a 5% and it's 5% from the original. And the 2000 edition kind of built on top of the auditorium, which kind of changes the load. It probably got reinforced at the time, but the recommendation was if we wanted to go down that road, you're gonna have to pull the ceiling down, reinforce it with steel beams to happen. And I'm like, no, that's not going to happen. We just spent $500,000 in the ceiling. Looks beautiful. We're not going. I kind of made that call, going, no, that doesn't make sense.
Good call.
No.
Lights are that heavy. Huh?
Yes, and because of the structural load and the fact that that part of the building is what 1930s, and then the option 2 was could kind of do something where you're coming up the sides and then you kind of piecemeal into the ceiling. So to have that, and I'm like, anything where you're kind of kind of dipping into the ceiling, really, and then the third option was where the lights are currently is removing them and putting in plates, not plates, but putting the new lights where they currently are on a different platform, and the lights are motorized so that you can program them to move and all that. And because the walls are masonry, the engineer's like, yeah, we shouldn't have any problem doing that. So I said, let's pursue that as the next option. So he's going to come up to review that just to make sure, and then get a closer look on the stage. But he thinks the stage rigging is all fine because of our last capital projects. They did some additions to it and did some welding and beefed up there, and he wants to just get a closer look. So that's the next phase of that, is he's going to come up, take a look at that. The hope is that then that could be done and potentially get submitted to the state in January, because this would be a great summer project. Wouldn't interfere with anything. And he said, yeah, as long as we can get the information to the states in January at some points, then the likelihood of having something worked on and done in the summertime is better. So I wanted to give you that update as to where we are with the auditorium.
Yeah, I did sit next to those lights
Yeah.
during the play, and I can tell you, you could hear them humming.
Yeah.
And you can feel the heat off of them. And I was a good 12 feet away from it. You can feel the heat coming from that corner when they've been running for hours. So
And right, I mean, all of the new light, I mean, there's gonna be LED lights and all that, the whole idea is programmable, so now you don't have to go up and change the color by putting in the film. You know,
cool.
that'll be
Definitely
all done-
safer too.
And definitely safer, so that is the ultimate goal, so hopefully it will keep moving and that this will be a summer project. Get it done. Great.
Those lights have been here when I was in school.
Yes.
I'm sure they probably have other people, but yes, good call. I'm not. Very good call.
All right, any other questions for the operation?
I think, are we, next meeting, will be, building condition survey?
Yeah, we'll,
Yeah,
start laying that out.
yeah, that just came back the other day, so we're still unpacking it. Great. More money to spend.
All right, Tim, superintendent's report. Take it away.
Sure. So, we'll start in the woods, or out of the woods as it were. Our third woods trip of the year finished today. So parents were reunited with their children and by all accounts had great trips in both instances in the past week. So last week we had 13 ninth grade boys going to Ochayota, and this week we had 12 ninth grade girls, all who returned and had many stories to tell. So thank you to John Glinski, who came back from recent retirement to be in attendance with the boys, and Sam Baker for going on yet another trip, and Jackie Boye for going on the first trip along with our students. We are in the early stages of the start of our community classes. So backed by popular demand, last year we started this initiative through the Community Schools Program, and a big push initially for our community schools program has to establish the school as an area of connection for families and a center in the community. And it just seemed like having classes for staff and students and families alike just was a happy marriage in terms of those goals. So this year we have pretty widespread participation for several different classes. We have a holiday baking class, a wreath making class, painting, a Shakespeare class, and a fitness education class, which will take place in the new weight room. So that's great. And we have several staff and community members leading those. So thanks to Karen Cooper, Jeanette Dugan, Sonia Franklin, Brendan Gotham, and David Snyder for leading those classes. Tomorrow we have an event at the elementary school. It's a science of reading night for parents. So you may recall that we have been incrementally adding the science of reading into our practices at the elementary school, with kindergarten fully adopting the science of reading in their curriculum, and over the next several years adopting it first grade and second, so that this current kindergarten class and all classes subsequently will have cohesion in their curriculum. And so this is the first opportunity for parents to hear from our reading specialist, Laura Coffin, who presented to the board, as you may recall, about what the science of reading is. And it will show parents examples of work that students will be bringing home. It'll show them different types of decodable texts and word recognition that are integral to the science of reading itself. So thanks to Mrs. Coffin, to Mrs. Franklin, and we hope that we have a good number of elementary parents showing up tomorrow. Speaking of parents, we are nearly at parent-teacher conference time. So on Monday of next week, both the middle high school and elementary school will have our parent-teacher conferences. So we hope for good connection at those meetings. Just recently on November 6th, we had another community event. We hosted a community conversation about addiction. On the 6th, we discussed mental health and preventing addiction with roughly 50 community members. We heard from Assemblyman Billy Jones, Supervisor Derek Doty, Zach Randolph from St. Joseph's Addiction and Treatment Center, and a panel of community partners. I was able to attend, and it was a really great dialogue about the state of mental health and addiction in our society and in the North Country. I'd like to thank especially Teresa Lindsay, middle high school principal, for serving on the panel, participating in the community conversation, and helping to organize the event. So it was very successful. And from there, let's transition to boxing. So boxing classes have started, folks. The weight room has been open for students since the beginning of November. It's been widely used. My predecessor, Dr. Catania, visited the school a few days ago And I said, hey, you want to see the weight room? And he said, I'd love to see the weight room. We walked in there and there were probably 40 kids in there on their own, of their own volition.
Great.
And 6 of them were receiving their first boxing lesson from their instructor, and then the others were just doing different free weights with our PE instructor, Mr. Snyder. So it was wonderful to see. But the boxing program is something new that was developed through community schools, and we were trying to find something that would target students who are not participating in athletics presently. And we were able to achieve that. So we have 26 students who are participating in the classes with 6 students at a time. So
Amazing.
roughly a little more than 4 different segments. And all 26 are students who have not participated in sports, but their enthusiasm is palpable when you go and see it. So it's great to see. We have job training program that is in its inception this year that will start for 9th and 10th grade students in the STREAM program on this Friday. And those students will actually be employed by Borda at the Olympic Center and paid on Fridays in the afternoon and receive their course credit simultaneously. So this is the JACT program, the Rosie Riveter sort of vibe, as the emblem of the JACT program has it. And basically it stands for Job and Career Training. And the goal is for these 9th and 10th grade students to have an 8-week job and career training opportunity, and to expose our students writ large to more career opportunities so they can decide what they want to do or don't want to do without the peril of large student loans, like myself, for instance. So that's very helpful that they're having that opportunity. The Veterans Day Parade took place on Saturday, and the high school marching band braved the cold and joined the community in celebrating our veterans. I'd also like to especially just recognize Joshua Taylor, who performed taps during the ceremony. And also thank you to Ms. Kakuka, all the marching band members, parents, and community members who attended to support our veterans and braved the cold. It's chilly. Certainly a topic of importance for the board and the district over the last several years has been civics. And so earlier in the month, we had some civics opportunities for our 5th grade students. So Judge May DiAgostino, pardon my pronunciation there, the U.S. District Court Judge for the Northern District of New York, visited our 5th grade students last week and presented to them on the intricacies of the judicial system. And so this is a 2-part learning opportunity for the students. So the first is we host the judge in our classroom. And the second is the judge hosts our students in chambers. So the students, when they travel to Albany, will tour the Capitol, and then we'll go to the court where Judge DiAgostino presides, and we'll continue to learn. So thank you to Mr. Fermanti for establishing this opportunity for our students. With the holidays in full swing, it's an opportunity for the school and our partners to give back and to make sure that we're taking care of the families who may need additional help. And so we've started the holiday food drive. This is coordinated with community schools, and the goal is for our students across both buildings to bring in 1,500 food items. And there are, in the middle high school and the elementary, physical shopping carts that have been decorated with different things by grade level, and the goal is to fill up the carts. And so over the course of the next several weeks, we're hopeful that by December 15th, we will achieve our goal. Last year, we were successful. In addition to that, we also have the school's backpack program, and this year we'll be sending home gift cards totaling $5,000 to support families so that they can put on their own Thanksgiving dinners. So nice gestures on both parts. Speaking of dinner, we had our mentor teacher dinner last week. And this is something that is co-arranged by the district and the Lake Placid Education Association. And it's an opportunity for new teachers and teaching assistants to the district to spend time with their mentor, spend time with all of the new hires and the administration, and just learn more about the community and just have informal dialogue. And it was a great success. So thanks to Brendan Gotham, Jenny Winch, and Sarah Allen for coordinating that teacher dinner. We have our National Honor Society induction coming up on November 30th. 11 students will be inducted into the organization. So thank you to our National Honor Society advisor, Rhiannon Adsit, for preparing for the ceremony and working with our students. Since our last meeting, we also fit a play in there. So congratulations to the Drama Club for the production of the fall play Radium Girls. And thanks to the parents, students, and the advisor, Mr. Gotham, for putting on such a great production. And there is a lengthy amount of information in the attachment for the board's perusal as well, from our athletic director, Jeff Nemec, highlighting all the details, the performances, and the records of our fall season. So if you have some time, I encourage you to check those out. But overall, you know, our fall teams did well. We had some surprises, some strong finishes when it came to sectionals, and at least in the case of one of our athletes, we still have the fall season going with Aiden Fay participating in the Federation Cup this coming weekend in cross country. But all told, a wonderful fall performance for our athletes, and we officially have entered winter sports world. So we anticipate 26 to 29 boys basketball participants, 10 to 16 girls basketball. Our Nordic numbers are 17 to 20, which is phenomenally high. Boys hockey is 8 to 9 participants on our end for the SLP team, 9 to 12 on the girls team, and 2 to 3 on the Alpine ski team. So they're still a bit fluid right now, but nonetheless, from one season to the next. That is the report.
Tim?
Yes.
Tim? I just want to, excuse me, I just want to say how exciting it is with the boxing students. I think that's one thing that really stands out to me. You now have 26 students that weren't officially on an athletic team that are in there getting exercise and learning a new skill. So I think that was really exciting, and how wonderful that we can offer that.
Awesome. Thanks, Connie. I think too, I would just like to point out a trend in all of these highlights is the faculty and the staff names that go along with each of these accomplishments of going up, you know, kind of beyond their regular job and stepping up into coaching and you know, being advisors, and just thank all of our faculty and staff for the extra work that they do to make our students' lives that much better. All right, any other questions for Tim? All right, information of the board, both the audits there, and I'm sorry, the audit and the ECA report, and then there's some executive content there as well. Is there anything that we need to pull up for discussion there in that internal audit?
Well, it'll be an action item below because we pulled D&E out of consent, and so there'll be an.
Well, this internal audit is what we get
Oh, sorry,
quarterly
that's
from our
our-
claims auditor. So every warrants, anytime we pay our bills.
Oh, this is from Andrea.
Yeah, Andrea, yeah, we have a claims auditor that comes in and reviews everything. This is just her quarterly report.
She does a check X. I don't know how to interpret. I'm assuming it's the mark.
I guess it's her mark, yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's been.
I mean, I used to do that on tests when you didn't know, and you tried both of them to see, you know, like, oh, I don't know. Maybe I get partial credit.
She does one up for every warrant that we do. We typically are doing 2 a week, 2 a month, sorry. Air bills.
Okay. So 4A was in consent, brings us to personnel. So the first is the consent agenda. Recommend action approve the following items which are included in the consent agenda: 5B, long-term teaching assistant appointment; 5C, mentor appointment; 5D, maternity leave request; 5E, custodian appointment; 5F, custodian appointment; 5G, additional winter coaches and volunteers. Do I have a motion?
Yes.
Thank you, John. Second for Colleen there. Any discussion? not, then vote.
I'm just waiting for you, Ron.
I don't know what's going on, but I'm not getting it.
Okay, do you want to just say
I
aye?
wonder why I'm not getting,
I don't know.
I don't either. I'll reboot.
5 yes.
Yes, 5 yes.
All right, thank you very much. And thank you to our new employees as well. Congratulations, Stratford. Upcoming life-changing event. And of course, our new coaches. Yes. Is that, was the overall, I know Nordic numbers are pretty strong. How are the rest of the sports for winter coming along? Like, are those numbers up from last year, down?
I don't have a year-to-year comparison. I can check that. I'm waiting that information anyways. I do know, like, for this year, the only numbers that have been on the bubble for us have been girls varsity basketball. We've been not quite getting the necessary. Now, we're looking for at least 7 for that, and I think we've been teetering just a bit below the mandatory 5. So we should know in a couple of days if that's going to come to the fore. And the other big surprise was the formation of a JV team for our boys basketball, which hasn't happened in some time.
Right.
I can tell you, if you look at the modified sports, the boys and girls, they're playing hard and they're taking their athletics seriously too. And we're gonna be strong in sports coming up, both soccer and basketball, and hockey. It's coming. We're in that lull.
Do we need to redshirt any of them? So we can maintain their eligibility.
Mine.
Back here.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, everyone. All right, moving on. We are into additional action items. First one is 6A, which was in consent. 6B was in consent. 6C was in consent. Brings us down to 6D, acceptance of investment program audit report from the Office of State Comptroller dated October 2023. The recommended action, the Lake Placid Central School accepts the audit report, including correction action plan on the investment program for the period July 1, 2021 to April 30th, 2023 from the Office of the State Comptroller. Do I have a motion?
Move it.
Thank you, Ron. Is there a second? Ryan, thank you. Discussion.
Yeah, I had a discussion with actually both these two items. I read the reports. I read the explanation that you gave. I was a little uncomfortable because I didn't think I had enough information to allow this to just, I wouldn't say get buried in the consent agenda. But at least from my perspective, and I think the board's perspective, we need to make sure that we do the due diligence. And I thought your reply was pretty generic. And what I'd like to know is, the result was we left essentially $300,000
On the table in a 5-year
and that's
period.
that's sunk cost, $300,000. That's not chump change between those two items. So I'd like to get a better understanding of how this came to be and what exactly are our action plans going forward. And finally, is there anything the board needs to be aware of that can do to help make sure that this doesn't happen again?
Sure.
So those are 3 questions.
Yeah, and we can answer them together. I just start by saying that, you know, in the period of time that the audit took place, the bulk of that funds, you know, whatever, less than 15 grand of the total 300, if you will, was just based on the feeling that the district wasn't sufficiently aggressive in our investment, and that traditionally taken a more conservative approach to our investment. I know in our response, Dana, you, in addition to already actually moving the funds to NICLAS,
Yeah.
you know, just generally monitoring the different rates and, you know, ensuring that we're in the most lucrative option available is going to solve the bulk of the issues. But from the investment standpoint, you think there's a broader issue than that, Dana?
No, when you look at it, and in fact, I was saying to John at the beginning of the meeting, I was talking to a superintendent yesterday and they had the same issue. So when you look at it, I mean, it's not lost revenue where we lost money. It was the fact that we have historically have taken a very conservative approach when it comes to putting our money. Money into the ICS, the Insured Cash Sweep, is actually more liquid. We can get it in minutes. And I think that's historically where that money has kept, that has been kept. It probably was there where, when you were on the board the first time around. It probably was not in other asset portfolios because of how easy it is accessible. It is through our bank. We can get to the money within minutes. It's earning money. It's just not earning as much. And the auditor said, well, if you would have had it in the NICLAS, you could have generated more revenue than what
Hindsight
you
is
did.
2020.
Yeah,
that's
that's what I got from
Yeah.
the auditor was,
But
it's really a hindsight thing, like, in hindsight, yes, if we had moved everything over.
Yeah.
But there also wasn't a guarantee that that would have.
and this is the risk reward.
Interest rates change.
Right.
Well, and that's at this period of time too, is
Yeah.
we were looking at a point something in
Exactly.
ICS and then the rates
And it
went
does
up
this.
at the
Yeah.
tail end of
Yeah.
the period that she was looking
I
at.
think the lesson I take is you have to keep monitoring.
Yes,
Stay
and
on
that was
top,
part of their,
as
that was,
opposed to, well,
absolutely.
we've always done it this
Well,
way.
for
and
12 years,
we don't-
interest rates were zero.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you did this, and so we didn't keep up with it.
and I'm looking at it again, my sense is because a lot of the schools up here, Chattagat got audited after us, Rushden. I mean, so what I'm sensing is that is the target, what they're looking at. That's the one thing that's, you know, multiple districts have been audited for was the investment side because of the time period. And yes, absolutely. And that one of the part of the write-up is, and part of their response was, we need to do a better job of monitoring
Staying
the
on top of
rates.
it, yeah.
Well, absolutely, and that's part of the response was having, my job is to, again, look at that, look at the NICLAS, look at NILEAF, which is another one. But look at the areas that are highly secure, like NICLAS is, as I said, ICS is 4.75, NICLAS is trending a little over 5%. It's not a huge difference at this point in time. It's still a difference. It's still a positive. It's not as liquid. It's not a 24-hour turnaround versus minutes. That's where we keep some money in the ICS, and then the bulk of it will be NICLAS because that's where the rate is. And yeah, my job is, kind of be looking at it on an annual basis. Where is the safest and highest rate of return that we can be putting our unencumbered cash.
Here's my philosophical, this is public record.
Yeah.
Anybody can access those, and they say, gee, Lake Placid Central School left $300,000 on the table. Did the board question it? Did the board?
Oh, I think this is completely appropriate diligence on your part.
Yeah.
At least from my
Absolutely.
perspective,
Yeah.
I want to say, yeah, I asked the question.
Yeah.
Well, this isn't our first audit in 5 years though either, so
It's like
the
first
last
one in
audits
8
also
years.
missed it.
Right.
So like every time that we've been audited by the same group,
Yeah.
they didn't
That's
say
what a lot
anything
of
about it
us
back
do.
then. They
I
just brought it
want
up
to make
now.
sure we're doing our due diligence, and we can say to the public, yeah, we looked into it. We got a handle on it.
It's more appropriately addressed.
Absolutely.
And
And one,
if there's anything we can do, if there's an issue, if there's anything we can
Do you
do.
think there's anything that the board can do, Dana?
no, I mean, I'm gonna, this is part of the process.
Yeah.
Is-
So
is
it's a
reviewing
learning
this.
experience.
Yeah. One of the things that it did make the audit was, but they brought up other suggestions which were implemented is every 4 or 5 years, we should be doing RFPs for our professional services. Even though technically, I guess, public schools are exempt from having to do RFPs on but they suggested that we should. So, I mean, I started that this spring, went out for legal services, went out, we do it for our busing every year for, for our bus purchases every year. But I went down to our claims auditor, we did an RFP for that, we did it for our legal services, we even did it for our, property and casualty.
How many people
insurance.
responded to the legal services already? How many firms or lawyers?
One.
So
And it was the person that we were using, his firm, right, yes.
Best deal, we got the best deal we could.
Yeah, one.
But at least you say you did it.
Well, and
No, no, I
that's
get it.
important,
I get it.
and that's the whole notion of the due diligence on my
Yeah.
part, of saying, yes, I
That's-
need to
that's
do
my
that.
issue.
Yes. You know, with the busing
And
thing as
image.
well.
So back to you said at the top of this conversation that that particular kind of money was readily available. How often do we have to access money that's readily available?
Typically, when we're doing either payroll or we're cutting checks, so.
Occasionally you do.
Yeah, so it's not a daily thing by
Yeah.
any means, you know, we keep enough in our operating account for the day-to-day stuff. But generally, we will do wire transfers right around payroll, so every 2 weeks, and then any warrants. We will,
Okay.
cash in there. Otherwise, we're keeping just a couple $100,000 in our operating accounts.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I mean, this is the question, what is the best thing you could do versus if you looked at it better, what's the optimal thing?
Right.
To do, and you can't be on top of this every minute of every day. You're not doing a bond fund with billions of dollars.
Right, yes.
Um, So, but I just want to make sure that, I feel more comfortable understanding how this came to be. We've got the situation under control, and if there's nothing we can do in terms of budgeting or staffing or types of people who are consultants or, if there's anything we can do, I'd like to at least get this on the table for next cycle.
And I think we're good, and we belong to school at Finance Consortium, right, Dana, and they,
Yeah, I mean,
You
it's,
know, we ha- we
it's a
have
matter of
that.
just doing the due diligence by looking at the rates that are out there, not, we're not gonna be looking at it daily and all that, well, it's not something you wanna move the money, we're not in that kind of world where we need to
Yeah,
move it on
I
a week or
understand.
monthly basis. It's something that we'll look at on a yearly basis as to where's the best rates. NICLAS, I mean, the auditor specifically mentioned NICLAS because we already have an account with NICLAS and their rate of return is really good. BOCES for Health Consortium, they put 10 million of their dollars in NICLAS. And the superintendent I spoke to, they had the same audit findings. That's where they have their money in NICLAS. So it's for municipalities. yes, yeah.
I feel good that we've had the discussion.
Yeah.
It didn't get buried in the consent agenda. So we know the reasons why. It's a plan in place. And
moves have been made.
we've asked if there's anything we can do to help. That's,
Can't ask for more than that, John.
No, you can't.
So I'm gonna have to ask you to vote by manual vote, aye, or no, yes or no, because my motion
you
in
can't
my
pull it out.
program doesn't say the same thing. See here,
Yeah.
it says it's the appointment, and I don't know why.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. That somehow got attached to the,
It's like, yeah, it's attached to a bunch of.
Yeah, and so I can't, it's this one and the next one, so
Okay.
all I'm doing is I'm gonna so I put like Ron and Ryan, I'm gonna have to call support tomorrow to see how to change it.
so we have a motion and a second already.
Yep,
We do.
Ron and Ryan,
So any
Yep.
other discussion, questions?
in the discussion, yep, now we just need to vote.
Yeah, no, I'm asking if
Oh,
anybody had any
right.
more discussion or questions. If not, then please vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay.
So it's five.
Go. Shake your head.
Was that for both of them or just?
Just
No,
for
just
the
the
investment
one.
one. All right, so that passes. Ayes. Next is 6E, acceptance of the Transportation State Aid Audit Report from the Office of the State Comptroller dated October 2023. Recommend action, the Lake Placid Central School District Board of Education accepts the audit report, including correction action plan on the Transportation State Aid state aid for the period of July 1, 2018 to April 30th, 2023 from the Office of the State Comptroller. Do I have a motion?
Yes.
Brian, Colleen, second. Quick. Any questions or discussion?
We've had the discussion.
See above for discussion. All right, we'll vote then, please. All in favor, say aye.
Alright.
Aye. All opposed? All right. Carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, John, for your thoroughness. Okay, that brings us to donation acceptance. Recommended action. Whereas Lake Placid Central Schools Board of Education Policy 6255 donations, gifts, and grants to the district allows for the superintendent of schools to accept on behalf of the board gifts, donations, and grants having the value of less than $1,500. Whereas the monies that have been granted as follows: Lake Placid Sports Medicine Society in the amount of $12,970.10 for the Community Schools Fund. Now therefore be resolved in accordance with policy 6255. The Board of Education hereby accepts the checks from the Lake Placid Sports Medicine Society in the amount of $12,970.10 for the Community Schools Fund. Do I have a motion?
Move it.
Thank you, Ron. Second. Thank you, John. Any discussion? Not vote.
Ron, did yours
Aye.
come back up?
Mine's not coming up.
Thank you. 5 yes.
All right, thank you. And thank you to Rick Preston and the LP Classic Race for raising that money and thinking of our community schools program. It's a great use of those funds. And thank you for all those runners who ran that day. It was so bad.
You're so bad. Those volunteers
And the volunteers,
who
yes,
stood out
that stood
there.
out there getting soaked.
It was bad.
Was that October 7th?
Yes.
I was in DC in a sunny day running.
Yeah. Yeah. No, they were running through a literal
Yes.
monsoon. It was one of the heaviest days of rain I think that we had all season. That's it. All right, 6G, donation acceptance. Recommended action, whereas the Lake Placid Central Schools Board of Education Policy 6255 donation, gifts, and grants to the district allows the superintendent of schools to accept on behalf of the board gifts, donations, and grants. I'm gonna skip that top part because it's the
Okay.
same, both of those.
There you go.
Whereas monies have been granted as follows: the Adirondack Foundation, in the amount of $4,000 for the Lucy Family Scholarship. Now therefore be it resolved, in accordance to policy 6255, the Board of Education hereby accepts the checks from the Adirondack Foundation for the scholarship as referenced above in the total amount of $4,000. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Ryan. Second, John, thank you. Discussion? Please vote.
I have a point of order here. So
Mhm.
in the first whereas clause, it talks about accepting donations having a value of less than $1,500,
Mhm.
but this donation is in excess of $1,500.
The board can accept Tim can accept checks.
Yeah,
So he
Dana,
can
less
accept
than
it if it's less than,
1,500.
but we have to approve donations greater than.
okay. Oh, I got it. Perfect. Thank you.
You have to take that up with Karen.
No, that's,
Was that a yes for you, Ron?
yes, I'm, I, yeah.
Okay. It's 5 yes.
Thank you, and thank you to the Lucy family for their continued
Yes.
generosity for our student body. All right, 6H disappeared.
Mhm.
It was the athletic merger.
Oh, I see, we're just missing 6H in there. And
No,
now
it's
it's I
still,
and J.
It's I, yeah.
it's
It was
6H.
I.
Oh,
Okay.
you know what? I took out, the tax
Concord.
thing. I took out
Okay,
the tax thing, but like, that's weird, because mine goes GHI.
all right, so is
Thank you.
everyone okay with going back to consent and saying that 6H and 6I are actually 6I and 6J?
Sure.
Perfect.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. All right, so athletic merger, and special education were both under consent.
Once again, tomorrow, there's a science of reading.
Technology's great until it just goes off.
All it is.
But AI is gonna be fun. All right. So that brings us to next for the good of the cause.
I have not received any emails.
I don't see anybody present, so we'll continue on linking goals with agenda items. I would say that, I mean, you should probably throw out your entire tirade into students first and foremost, but I think I will definitely say that the Woods program is a great kind of above and beyond
It really
for the
is.
good of my daughter came back and is very thankful for chairs. She said, I'll never take a chair for granted now.
I love it. That's great.
I would sit on the ground for 4 days.
That's great.
Oh my goodness.
I love it.
I would just like to add also, Dan, students first and foremost, because I think it's wonderful when you have mentors that bring young students like Emmett, that they bring them to our board meetings. It teaches them just confidence, public speaking. And I just think that's such a wonderful part of our programming. And I just want to emphasize that.
That little boy was nervous.
No,
Yeah.
I noticed.
He was just adorable, but what a wonderful thing that, you know, these little 11 and 12-year-olds that, you know, the teachers and the mentors and Teresa are bringing them to our board meetings, and just how that's going to impact him as he goes through middle, high school, perhaps on to college, just the confidence to be able to get up in front of a group of people. I just think it's wonderful.
Especially since you said he beat Tim.
That was the hardest
He
part.
answered it quickly.
Yeah, I know. He hasn't forgotten.
Took him down.
However, I would have watched.
You got time
Very
now.
diplomatic.
The audits could go under strategic goal number 6, finance. I have a cheat sheet out, so
I like it.
She's so good.
that's
So he'll get caught with it.
right. And then community, strategic goal number 3 for the community classes,
Oh, yeah.
community outreach and involvement.
If I can just make another aside, in your report, you talked about the interaction with the kids on civics. I think in this day and age, there's so many people, adults, who are clueless
I agree.
about how our government works. And maybe I'm stating my age, but I had a years-long course in civics in 8th grade. And I learned so much. I don't think people really understand nearly what the way things work.
No idea, but three branches of government.
So I think that program is really beneficial, and I think it ought to be expanded if it could possibly be.
Here, here.
The 3 branches of government, the NINA,
Because that's gonna live with them, you know, for the rest of their lives, with that, just that understanding.
Well,
It's not rocket science.
the beauty of that is we transitioned from the 5th grade and then the culminating, it's a culmination of elementary is that, and then it's the 8th grade trip to DC really.
Yeah.
You know, so they get the state and the federal government. So, but I think there's plenty of opportunities for us to embed more civic
Yeah.
You could expand
engagement.
that in so
Yeah.
many different ways.
Yeah.
I think most of our elected officials in Washington have forgotten what the government's about.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of depressing, but just knowing fundamentally.
I know.
How things come to be.
I totally agree with you.
All right. Any others? If you can think of any others, please send them to Karen. Next meeting date and location, we'll be back here December 5th at 6 p.m.
We're gonna be at the elementary school.
Isn't that the following meeting?
Is it? Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. Yeah, this
I
week-
did note it.
Yeah, next meeting will be
19th is at the.
19th will be at the element.
All right, and then we're into 2024, if you can believe it. Lord willing, the creek don't rise, I guess. All right, any old agenda topics? Any new agenda topics? If not, then the recommended action is to adjourn the meeting at 7:08 PM. Do I have a motion?
Yes.
Thank you, Colleen, second. Thank you, John. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you, everybody.
So Karen, can you see if I'm connected?
I
You
can't
can't,
see.
okay.
I know, I don't.
Oh, all right.
I'm having my own gremlins.
Okay.
Goodbye, you